welcome, namaste, everyone. So we're gonna do Facebook Live today and talk. Hello, welcome, namaste, everyone. So we're gonna do Facebook Live today and talk about the current energies. So I did do a reading yesterday and updated you guys on what I was getting. And here we are. Hello, Reuben. Let me go ahead and accept you. Guest request to join you. And oh, here we go. Okay. I was going to come on with a guest. So Reuben is going to be our guest. And that device, Reuben, didn't connect. So if you want to try from a different device. So Reuben also has a channel. He's a twin. And we're going to be talking about the divine feminine, divine masculine energies. We're going to be sharing a little bit about our own stories. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining. Hello, Jen, Vanessa, Charlotte, Beverly. So I'm just going to let Reuben kind of navigate his way through. Usually people have issues connecting but I'll go ahead and just start talking a little bit about what's been going on today for me. I did a session in the quantum field and we connected with Lord Ganesh, and he had a lot of messages for the twins, specifically for the divine feminine. Hello, Tiffany. Hello, Donna. And I'll kind of go back to the session, and the individual that I did it with, she allowed me to share our session and some of the messages that Lord Ganesh gave us. So while I'm waiting here, let's see, Reuben, if I can find you on here. Yeah, I don't see you yet. Okay. So he was talking to us about how the divine feminine collective, the energy is very low. There's a lot of doubt in the energy, he was saying. So he was asking us to bring up our vibration through our own vessel, and he said that the best way that we could do this is by believing in the journey. And this always takes me back to the beginning of the journey when I had a very, very strong connection with the higher realms. And whenever I go into the quantum, that's what it feels like. So I'll continue with that message. Join us. Hey. There you are. And whenever I go into the quantum, that's what it feels like. So I'll continue.
Can you guys see me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. How are you guys?
Good.
I'm echoing you, Reuben. I don't know if you have earphones that you can put on. Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I noticed there's a little bit of a delay also.
Yeah, let me see if I can grab. Hold on, I think I figured out actually how to. Okay, let me try to find some.
Okay, I'm just gonna talk while you. If that's okay. So I was talking about my quantum session and some messages from and he was saying that the divine feminine needs to trust more. And we carry a lot more of the experience he was telling us. There we go.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to finish my message here with Lord Ganesh, and then I'm going to...
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no. And then I'm going to introduce you, and we're going to start our conversation, and we'll pick up there. So Lord Ganesh was telling us to trust in the process, trust in what's happening, keep following our path and believing. Again, this is what's going to bring us higher into the higher vibrations in connection with our higher path. And he was saying, don't worry about what others think. And he said that a lot of people are getting caught up in that, worrying about what other people think. And he says that this is an experience through our own being, and we know that this is true from our own hearts. So that is what we need to connect to. And he was telling us that it's very important to protect our energy during this time. And he says that there was a lot of attacks, and do not be afraid, he says, for we are protected and we are guided and we are not alone. That was a big message that he wanted to tell us, that they are always with us. And he says, for all of you guys that feel alone, you're not alone. The divine is with us. They're connected with us. And we need to trust in them that they're with us, and we need to trust in ourselves and this journey. He said, we are all in this together. And I love that message. I always try to deliver that message because it's so true. And that's whenever I connect with beautiful souls that carry that same vibration, I love to bring them on the channel and just talk, twin flame talk, because this is real, right? It's real to us, and therefore it's real. It's our reality, and it's happening. So he was telling us, relax. And he says, you are all worthy of love. So know that, because that seems to be a big fear with the twins right now. There's a lot of other personal messages that we received, but when we asked about the twin flame divine masculine collective, he said that they seem to be stuck. And he showed us mud. And so we asked specifically, what does it represent? Fears, he says. And he says it represents that they can't move in forward traction because they are stuck. And so we said, can you help us a little understand this? What is this fear? What are they stuck in? Why can't they move forward? And he says they seem to be prisoners of their own mind. And they're having a hard time believing. And he says this is the same problem that the Divine Feminine Collective is having. And he says you guys need to understand how powerful that is to believe in the journey. And then we asked Divine Feminine what we could do to help the masculine. And he says that to choose love. That's what you could do, and to express love, to be the pillar of light, to be that lighthouse for them, and to have confidence. And he said that the divine masculine are still going through a great deal of hurt and a great deal of pain. They're hurting, he says. But the divine feminine helps them to get through this, through shining our lights. And basically, it's about remembering the journey, the basics of the journey. And when you were very connected at the beginning of the journey to oneness, like when you're awakened. And that's why I love to talk to different people, because when I was talking to you, Reuben, that's what you reminded me of, that initial connection, the excitement to the journey. And I'm just going to first start by introducing you, and I want you to kind of please introduce yourself, and we'll start there.
Awesome. Hi, guys. My name is Reuben Dante, and I live in West Hollywood. I've been on this journey. I guess we first crossed paths like 4 years ago, but we really got a lot closer, I guess, in the last year or so, and that's when things got really intense, I guess. Well, no, they got really, really intense, um, and so yeah, so I'm a day trader. We actually met in that environment. I was a student, and then I was hired. Then I moved up pretty quickly, and so um, it was it was definitely very, it was really all consuming, I think, because so much of it had it was like my work and my life, and then obviously this connection, um, and it was really like during the runner chaser stage, like it was really hard and overwhelming and depressing. So
Yeah. Let
yeah,
me stop you,
yeah,
interrupt for just 1 minute.
yeah, no
So
worries.
it sounds like you were awakened, would you say, a year ago? Is that what it,
Yeah, well,
okay,
when I first realized what the twin flame was, or the twin flame journey was, about a
a
year
year
ago.
ago. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha. So the intensity of the relationship in that time, like when you're in the physical, going through that back and forth of the energy balance and all the dynamics and the 3D are playing out,
yeah,
and it's just like, is this a movie or is this my real life, right? That's kind of where
right.
you guys are at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it was because it's been so all-consuming, I think, for both of us. Both of our worlds completely changed and fell apart. It was very much, the point of return was definitely when we first crossed paths, and I think we both realized that.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us could have imagined the all-consuming tumultuous past that it was going to be, but it has been amazing, like in the journey, especially during the hard parts of the journey, is where I really found myself and my God and my spirituality. It's where I came to one with myself, through the darkest parts of it, if that makes sense. From hindsight, I realized that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so through the unfolding, I wanted to just chime in and say that, like, you never imagined the unfolding of the journey to be what it was, right?
Right, yeah, go
But
ahead.
let
Yeah.
me take you back a little bit. So you're actually, your path started in Hollywood, like as an actor, right? And,
Right.
and then now you do, what is it? You're a broker, you trade stock.
So I'm a day trader, so I trade my own money.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then I have, yeah, the YouTube channel.
Okay, yeah, so a little
Yeah.
bit different. And then you started on the journey of Twin Flame a year ago, gotten awakened, you started your channel, and you started commenting on my videos. And one video
Right.
in particular, you said I inspired you to do the video, and so I went and I watched it, and so I heard your story on that end, and then we talked today, and you kind of took me through like the details of the relationship and whatnot. But what I saw in your video was your awakening, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because I feel like twins have this very similar awakening, and there's the stages that we go through. And for someone like me, for example, my journey now, it's 3 years, but it unfolded very rapidly from the very, from
Right.
like day one, for me, and like the mission part of it. So I started my mission very early, but when I talk to somebody like you, it connects me back to that, and that, like you
Right.
heard Ganesh's message of believing and remembering the, just the energy of that time. Because when you're
Right.
first awakened, it's such a strong, powerful love. And that love, it'll take you through the whole journey, like the power and the strength and that feeling of what you feel for your twin. And I love to see that in people. It's the energy of oneness.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, and then what I saw also in your message in your video was the epiphany that you had, and I kind of wanted to touch on that too, because going back to when I started, when I opened, I was talking about the doubt, and that was
Right.
one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, to give some encouragement to the divine feminine and to help us collectively to raise the energy, to know that we're all in this, because I think that's one of the things, is that you feel so alone in this journey. We were talking about
Right.
that, and there's so many stages of this journey that you go through that are so difficult, right? Like depression, the suicidal ideation,
Right.
things that
Right.
you don't want to talk to
Right.
other people about because they'll think you're crazy and they'll judge you. And it's what a lot of even the twin flame community does. It's funny, in my video yesterday, somebody made a comment and they said, Sylvia, whatever, whatever, whatever. and it was just all judgment. And I'm thinking that's exactly what we're trying to teach, I guess, right? And in the teaching, it's that this journey is about seeing above duality, above judgment. And so it's okay to talk about this stuff because
Right,
we know how
100%.
difficult it is, right, to go through it.
Right. Yeah,
And we go through
100%.
so many dark nights. And it takes so much courage, first of all, to talk about this. So
Right.
I appreciate you coming on, first of all.
Yeah, of course.
So much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I love to have divine masculine because I know that the divine feminine also love to see that, like, you know, to have
Right.
the chemistry, I think, between the masculine and feminine, but to connect with the masculine. Because, like I was saying to you, that a lot of the divine feminine are the ones talking about this, and we're all kind of like, where's the divine masculine?
Right. Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, I think it's really it's a beautiful journey for sure. There is looking back on it, I won't necessarily say it's easy because I think we all know it's not. Um, but what I will say is that I think there is like before I met my twin flame, in a lot of ways I thought I had everything I wanted. I thought I had the car, the clothes, the income, the especially in my world, I am one of the top traders. One thing that I didn't have so much, and I always felt very intuitive and I always felt very empathic, but it wasn't my number one in my life. And it's something that I definitely learned through my twin flame journey. And it's something that it's something that I wouldn't trade for the entire world.
Yeah.
In that moment, I didn't see that. All I knew was it was obviously all consuming. And in losing everything, and I think so many people want insight on like the tower moments, right? The tower moments, and the thing about, and kind of going back to my epiphany, if we think about all of the great leaders of our ascended masters, I mean, they pretty much all had tower moments before they came to their enlightenment.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think we don't always think about. And you know, the darker and the deeper the hole, the brighter the light that comes through. And I think a lot of divine masculines in general, I think it's almost natural to feel like in a lot of ways we have it all figured out. So when we meet our twin flame, it's not that. And I think we realize how much we don't have or how much is missing because suddenly we meet someone and there's this all consuming aspect of it. And in the hardest times is really, you know, going back to the tower moments, it's almost like a lot of us had to lose everything we thought we valued.
Yeah.
Right, because it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to be like, oh well, I made $3,000 today, or you know, the karmic and the drama, or work, or status, or whatever. And twin flame, I think that the love and the connection that is so deep is the one thing we can't ignore.
You're right.
And then it becomes very obvious how much the other things don't mean anything to us.
Yeah.
And I think that is almost its own, almost like coming out of the closet experience. Because if we think about the burden of the divine masculine, like the burden of man, we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, right? We think, you know, society up until now has told little boys don't cry, and you're the breadwinner, and you're this and you're that. So I think in stripping away everything that I thought I valued, everything I thought I wanted, and yeah, exactly. I say all consuming because I wouldn't say that it's toxic. And we've had this conversation because we never did anything to necessarily want to hurt each other or anything like that. It was just, it was ourselves bringing all of our shadows to light and
Balancing.
right. And so it was a very rapid purging. I think more rapid than anybody could have imagined a purging like that to be. I think we go through depending on your age, we go through decades of correction, and it's almost like all the karma lands. I think you said it's like all the karma comes to our door, and it does, and it's a purification process of, you know, taking all the pain. So then we go through, oh, like this is all really, really painful, but in that we find the strength that we really have, you know, and you don't realize how strong you are
Yeah.
until, if you think about trees, I mean, like the root has to rip out through the ground. If you think about, life only comes from the most excruciating pain. I mean, giving birth, period, is such a painful experience. And it's almost like the transmutation of the healing of it. So I think as the pain becomes really, really painful, because it is, it not only did I realize how strong I was, and that I also realized that all of these 3D paradigms don't matter. And I think there's a part of us that always likes to know that. I feel like deep down we know that those paradigms don't matter. But I think, in the midst of the moment, like, you go out, you're at Rodeo, you're wherever, and then you're shopping, and it's so easy to escape what really matters, I think, in our heart, mind, souls, and spirituality, because it's so easy to get distracted until you meet your twin flame. And I think that's where the fact that we're divine beings within of ourselves, and then we're extraordinarily powerful united.
Yeah.
I think the only reason we come to that epiphany is because of how painful it is and how we have no choice but to weather through that, because I think our love is so extreme and it's so all consuming. We're forced to face the things that matter to us. And then that is not just, I think for the masculine, is not just, oh, I love a man, I love this, I love that. It is, or a woman, or whoever. It's like, oh, everything I was led to believe my entire life is not what matters to me. The car, the clothes. I mean, and I think in a lot of ways for the masculines, we have to imagine like it's what it's like to come to the realization that, for it's like and I read this, and it's relevant, when a lot of parents, when their kids come out, the reason it's heartbreaking for them, but they say they still love their child, is because what's so hard for the parents is that they break up with the illusion of the dream they had for themselves for the kid. It's almost a really selfish point. It's like they break up with their own idolization of their now gay child having kids, so on and so forth. So the same way for the masculine, it's almost like they're breaking up with themselves and breaking up with everything they were led to believe.
Yeah.
And that within of itself it's its own thing. And now you're adding a layer of a love you didn't even imagine existed.
Right.
But right. But I think through the pain of that is where I had nothing else left, is where I really found my God and my strength. So it wasn't just my strength, but like my love and my divine. Not just because I think it's so easy for a lot of even the spiritual men or women to say, "Oh yeah, I believe in a higher power. Yeah, the law of the universe. Oh, I read The Secret. I read Think and Grow Rich." But then when you're like, you understand the why behind the what, and you understand the power of an all-consuming love, almost Christ-like. Like, if you think about, because that was kind of my epiphany, that, when you think about Jesus, whether you're Christian or whatever, even just from an allegorical standpoint, he took in all of the pain that was inflicted on him. And especially for a lot of the divine feminines, and just people that are very empathic or intuitive, I think you grew up and you internalize so much pain of even just being empathic. You watch a kitten video and then you're crying, or a movie and you're crying. So then we grew up internalizing as empaths all of these painful experiences, and then you lead up to your twin flame, and then you're like, oh my God, why me? Why me? And that's what I came to realize, is like, why not me? And
Yeah.
in the sense that, like, if anybody, especially the divine feminine, I mean, just the power of birth and just giving life, but also go that, but then you leading up to your twin flame, you go through the most all-consuming experience, and in that moment you're forced, because you can't escape an all-consuming love, to face arguments, to face
Yeah.
your karma, your past lives, to everything you ever, everything of everything.
Yeah.
But in that, because only the twin flame love can make you go through that,
Yes.
as you're healing, I mean, the only way out of the pain is through it. And I think, I don't think I know, as we're healing these aspects of us, and not just the aspect of the twin flame, but all the pain we've ever been through, we are then as we heal that, that is being filled with unconditional love, right? Because that's what happened. That is what the love that you have for the divine masculine is not an easy love, is not a toxic love, is not it's definitely not a complacency love. It is all consuming. So as you feel all of that pain with the unconditional love through your own healing, you don't only transmutate the pain of everything you've witnessed and experienced and yourself and your divine masculine, but also the world around you through the power of energetic resonance. You know, when we think about there's the Institute of Heart Math, right? They've done studies on like the electromagnetic frequencies that we radiate from our heart, the electromagnetic frequencies that we radiate from our mind. As you heal that and you go out into the world, you realize that you're also healing the world around you. Like something about the energetic resonance of the pain, and that kind of what brings me back to the Jesus point. You feel that this person, this divine feminine that's gone through so much, as you go through and walk into a room, Starbucks, wherever, like the people that have been in your shoes can feel that, can feel the hope and the transmutation you've gone through your own journey. And I think that is what is so much bigger than even ourselves, is that we are healing the world around us as we heal ourselves. And that's what I came to realize, because I started to see that in the world in which we both lived in. There was a lot of tower moments, not just for each one of us, but also the world in which we were, our work environment. But in that, there was also finally starting to see honest clarity and honest clarification and honest it's like the end of bullshit, like, you know what I mean, like the end of the 3D paradigm, the end of that. And only through a twin flame dichotomy would anybody, it's like, let's be honest, guys, how many of you guys would, if someone offered you $1 million to go through the pain you've been through, how many of you guys would volunteer? You probably wouldn't. But because this is such a pure unconditional love, you don't have a choice. And that's kind of what brought me back to the point about Jesus. Like, we didn't, it's like maybe like, you know, when you think about soul contracts, like maybe from that standpoint we chose this, but we didn't consciously choose to do that. But and then us healing through that and becoming stronger and transmutating that level of pain into, and filling that with the unconditional love, not just for yourself, but for the world around you, because the 3D paradigms that mattered to you before don't matter anymore because of what you've been through, right? And and for that, I'm so thankful. Like, I really, really am, because there is no way all the money in the world or the trading or the, I mean, I live in my favorite zip code. Like, I look at Santa Monica, but it's a value that you only get through. It's like birth. It's like, you know, bringing life through pain. It's a second life that you only get through the transmutation of such a all-consuming journey. And I think for that, and I saw him yesterday, and you, I mean, the whole world around the both of the world, the whole world around can feel that. I mean, like, it's very,
Yeah.
I mean, electrokinesis, all of it. So, so yeah, I guess that's the message of not just hope, but right. And then someone like the 5D star goal, and then I would even push it further and say, like, you know, from the way I feel about it, it's like, yeah, something about the twin flame experience did bring me closer, like, to the quote unquote 5D and the oneness. But then what's even better than that is that, you know, the 60, I think in a lot of ways, the way I feel about it is like your inner child and your higher self merge, or you're more so guided with your higher self.
Right.
And I think the 70, you become a flow through entity from the divine, and then you're almost always healing and transmutating. And I think that can only come through the twin flame journey, going through the other side of it. And that's the part that I feel like no money in the world can buy, because you're then not only extraordinarily powerful from the experience you've been through, but you're also healing to such a enormously unquantifiable level all the time, everywhere you go. And it's almost like the whole, like part of me kind of also real or like into the epiphany of like, maybe again, I'm not of a particular religion, but thinking about the like when you think about the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, I thought, well, what if the Father's obviously the divine, Son, I wonder if it's the inner child and the inner and the Holy Spirit, like really our higher self, and that's really the merger is like the divine ourselves, our inner child, and our higher degree self with the ego of the 3D body, and that transmutation I feel like only happens through the extraordinary pain and healing that we go through in the twin flame experience, and so I guess that's kind of my
Your
take.
take, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I was writing notes, so while you were talking, I wanted to just mention something that when I met my twin, going way back to the beginning of the conversation, what
Right.
he said to me was that he felt a hole on his heart. And that's what twins feel when they meet each other, like, oh, there you are. Like, I didn't even know you existed, but now that you're here, it's all consuming
Right.
love that you know you've been missing something your whole life, but you never knew, and now you know, and it's like, what the hell just happened, and who are you? I remember I would say that to him all the time, like, who are you? And he would
No,
look
a
at me
hundred
and
percent.
say the same thing, like, I've never met anybody like you. Like, what the
Right.
hell is
A
this?
100%. And it's something that like we both said because
Yeah.
it's interesting because I think the inverse, so like the divine masculine, what's happening is so both of us were traders, both of us won the face of the institution, or whatever. I think we are told what we want our whole life, especially like the masculine. You want the cars, you want the clothes, you want the status, you want this, you want that.
Yeah.
I think deep down we knew that. I think both of us knew there was something bigger, but it's almost like we were so comfortable in our lives and our social lives and just all of those things.
Yeah.
I think meeting is like, oh, like this is whatever this is, it's real. And it was very tumultuous for the world around us. I mean,
Yeah.
especially as we got closer because it was, first of all, they didn't even, and this is what I almost have to say about like the unconditional love, and I think that the sideline from something being so intense, I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that the message is that unconditional love transcends all, and that's kind of what takes me back to like our ascended masters or
Yeah.
Jesus, because it's like gender was not.
Yeah.
It's like they say they've never had, thoughts like that about the same sex. I realized I didn't look at anybody else, and gender didn't matter. So for me, it was just as shocking as it was for a different reason, right? For me, it was just like, oh, like I live in West Hollywood and I haven't blinked at anybody twice. And for him, it was just like, or it's like, it's the same gender. Like, what? And I think that's why, in a lot of ways, it, it cross religions, different
Yeah.
states, different counties. Like, was into your experience the other day. And I think the message, sideline from transmutating the pain into unconditional love, I think the message is also like unconditional love transcends all. It transcends gender, religion, borders, color. And
Yeah.
I think that's really what the divine is trying to clearly convey to the world
Yeah.
around them. And that's
Yeah.
what's so obvious to the world around both of us. It's like, oh, this is not about
Yeah.
is so and so, straight or gay or whatever. It's about like whatever that is, I want that. Like
Yeah.
whatever that is pure, it's authentic, it's our inner children and our higher selves. And together there's no, it's almost like you transmutate yourself into unconditional love, and then through the pain and the more intense pain, the closer you become to your higher light. Same with them, but it's almost like as the two merge, it's like this all new superpower, and that's why I feel like that's what transcends to the 5 and 7D. It's like, we've had ascended masters transform us or get us some resonance of like unconditional love and the 5D and the oneness. And I think that's what a lot of the Ascended Masters have done up until now. I think the quantity in which twin flames are appearing now is more about like, yeah, there is unconditional love, and yeah, duh, guys, that's obvious. But then also the fact that we're taking a new form as twin flame unions come together to whatever degree. It's a new form of superpower that can change the world, not just through transmutation of the worlds around you, but then through to realizing like unconditional love is obvious, right? As the twin flames come to you, like that's clear. I think then new superpower that emerges from the transmutation into unconditional love from both accounts, right? Because even something as because I'm a Kabbalah, like I studied the Kabbalah, which is the Jewish mysticism, but even from the Zohar, which is like 2,000 years old, it talks about a divine union that requires absolute purification, which I talk about in my YouTube video. But when I saw that, I went to the center and I was like, you guys, this is not about a soulmate. This is about a twin flame. It's self-purification that must take place before union, for a new superpower to emerge. And so it's as old as time. I mean, twin flame is just a label. And I mean, yeah, we're in the middle of, we're both on the same page on the fact that we are clearly what is depicted as twin flames. What it means for each one of us and for the world around us, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, when you're talking, what I was going to say is, yeah, it transcends body and form, unconditional love.
Right.
That's why, like, I had that same, I think all twin flames have that realization that, I mean, he's a male, I'm female, but when I felt the love, that unconditional love with him, and actually, like, when we were physically together, we connected through our souls. And I remember having that understanding, because you also see a lot of past lives where you are, I was masculine before he was, you know what I mean? Like, you have that
Right.
And I remember saying to myself, and at one point, it's like when you have that epiphany that it didn't matter, like if he was young, old, male, female, it wouldn't have mattered. Like the love that I felt.
Right. It didn't matter. Yeah, it was like, it was a 5D, like it wasn't like body was completely
irrelevant, right? Yeah.
Right.
There was no body, there's no form in that. It was just light.
Right.
Yeah, that is a very interesting point. And yeah, the twin flame also, one thing that you were talking about is the philosophy of life. It changes your belief system. Like everything you ever believed comes up. And then you start to base all these different things that have been taught to you. And you realize when you're connected to the divine what truth is.
100%, yes.
Yeah, for me, I did a lot of astral travel. My guides took me up to the absolute, which is the higher 4D. And there, it's just, there's nothing but truth. So you see everything on that level. And, all this stuff down here, what we believe and such, it's just, doesn't even matter. Like,
100%.
It really doesn't. And so that's why all of that comes up, because it does need to be transmuted, transcended, for sure.
Right. And I saw someone just post that, their male counterpart or divine masculine, I assume, is 18 years younger. Yeah, I'm talking about someone who is 49. So they're much older than me. It doesn't matter. Like, and that's the thing about, I think if anything, in a lot of ways, it might almost be harder. I think it is harder in a lot of ways for the older person, especially if they're, because they've picked up more 3D false ideologies. They've picked up more, they picked up a lot more of those beliefs that don't really serve them. And I think something that no one, and the thing that's so hard, I think, and I will say this about the divine feminine, is that I think there's different things to learn for both counterparts. And again, not religious, but like going back to another epiphany that I had a couple of days ago, and I'm debating whether I'm going to do a video of it or not, because it's about, again, I'm not necessarily, I mean, I just said I'm a Kabbalist, but going back to like almost like Adam and Eve, I think there's an interesting side of the story that no one really thinks about, which is those who follow the theory of the story or the whatever, Christian or not, if you read the story, it will say that Adam was present when she was talking to the serpent, and then she took the first bite. So then I thought, whether you believe in this or not, I think it's interesting food for thought for the feminine. Like if God or the serpent or whoever, or if God told you that it was going to kill you when you were going to bite it, why did, and again, this is food for thought, is not about right or wrong. Why did Eve feel compelled to take the first bite? And then I thought, is it because she was trying to be a super saver for Adam? And then I thought, I wonder if the message was, obviously there was free will and what have you. But then I thought for Adam, if he was there as a divine masculine, why didn't, I get that if he told her, no, don't bite it, or like, let me bite it first or whatever, it would have been seen as like, well, shit, man, so divine feminine's what to do. But I wonder, the food for thought from the story for the man is, why didn't you feel compelled to protect your feminine and offer to be the first bite?
Yeah, right.
Why did you sit there in silence?
Right.
You know what I mean?
I
Like
do
why
know.
did he sit there in silence?
Right.
And I thought, well, and then when Jesus came as male, I thought, I think he came as male because he was an embodiment of because in Kabbalah they do say that men have the harder journey in life and they're the ones that have the most correction. I wonder if it was male, not because male is the superior anything, but rather male is the one that has to learn that transmutation of love over the women. So my point is, I wonder if the lesson for us to learn about Eve is that playing super saver doesn't help anyone, and why did she feel compelled to take the first bite
Yes,
over him?
I like that.
And this, yeah, and then the side of him was,
Yeah.
the food for thought is, well, men, why didn't you feel compelled to protect and take the first? If you were both going to bite it, why didn't you bite it first? And I wonder what that says about men since the beginning of time. Just putting that out there, or the divine masculine energy since the beginning of time. Because, are we babysitting divine masculines, or are we, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or are we looking out after them? Because
Yeah, and it's funny because it takes me back to the message of Lord Ganesh, and we're asking, like, is there anything we could do, or what do we do? Do we just kind of stay in our corner and, let them go through what they need to go through? Because we all know that, you have to go through the process. There's no way around it. You have to
right.
go through it. So, the
So like,
message was that they have to face their hurts and their pain, and they have to learn their lessons, and it's strengthening them is what he was saying to us. It's strengthening them.
yes, I do feel like I don't know if it's the male energy or a culture or what it is, but I do feel like they have this like circumvention, avoidance, deference, hiding,
Yes.
and they hide in all these 3D paradigms. According to a lot of the Kabbalah and just my beliefs is like men have the harder correction because they have to transcend above that, and
Yeah.
that's why I started thinking like maybe that's why Jesus was male, is because men are the ones with the harder with the harder correction, and I do believe that. I think going through the pain of the divine feminine, absolutely. I've like whenever I left my environment, no one told me to. No one said, Reuben. I mean, it was subtly implied, but I was playing Super Save and Ho or Super Saver, and I got caught up, and that's the thing. What triggered in me, it was and that's why I say like twin flame is not necessarily toxic, but it's all consuming, because it was my own will and accord that decided, well, let me just sacrifice myself for these people that I love, and they were like my family, and then for this person, so that they may have a easier time figuring it out. And you know what? They didn't have an easier time figuring it out. They did just as much damage to themselves and to the world around both of us. They are still haven't learned their lesson, and it's almost like, well, and I think there's two sides to the story, and I think this is kind of like the message about Eve and divine feminine, because when we try to do that for them, usually is not going to work out, and they're going to have to, it's going to put us through this pain. And I think the journey for the divine feminine is self-love. And here's what I will say about Eve. She put, if you, based on like the epiphany I had about the story, not only did she put Adam first, she put her light, her God, and herself second to Adam. So it was like she put this masculine, the divine masculine, before the God she knew to not bite it, before herself because they could have died.
Yeah.
And what I want to say about the death thing, I wonder if, because they say this in Kabbalah and I kind of agree, you know, a baby's free will is different than an 18-year-old's free will that's a 50-year-old's free will. I wonder if the death was the death of the purity of the inner child and the 70 consciousness, and that was a wonder then if the serpent metaphorically transmutated into the ego 3D paradigm. And that's then it was the death of the prevalence of the inner child and the higher self and the rise of the ego 3D dichotomy in that story. But as feminines, I feel like the lesson to take from her is not to put any other source before the light and ourselves. And it's something that it's just my belief system as a Kabbalist is like, if you don't put your spirituality first, whatever it is, the universe, Christian, Catholic, agnostic, whatever it is, the the ego, the darkness, the dark forces are gonna come in through whatever you put first. If it's money, if it's trading, then you're gonna get the money. You're gonna, which is another thing that I realized is like they got all the material that they wanted. And the more they had it, the more dead they were becoming inside because they didn't earn their own fulfillment. They didn't earn their success. So it was almost like they were dying inside. The more, and that's kind of where what I want to say about the divine masculine that I saw firsthand, because it was not only the person that I looked up to the most, which is like a huge disillusionment, which is another 3D paradigm, but it was also the they had everything they thought they wanted, everything they thought the world wanted, but they didn't earn it. And because they didn't earn it, they were always chasing something. And so the downside is I sacrificed myself for no reason. No one told me to, like Eve. And they still went through the pain, they're still going through it, and they still haven't learned anything. And but let's say that the opposite happened. Let's say that I sacrificed myself anyway, and we become billionaires and run the hedge fund of the universe, whatever. Well, what you cannot take away from them. It's like you can come back from a tower moment, but if you take the fulfillment away from their success, they will never get that back. And I think Gary Vee has said this. It's like someone that's born a millionaire, you can't take that away from them. People are always going to say, or like Kylie Jenner, people are always going to say, well, she was born rich, she was born whatever. If I did the bulk of the work as a divine feminine enemy, then they would have never earned their success and always be a prisoner of, did I ever really do it myself? And that is very, I mean, in Kabbalah, they say something that they don't have necessarily in Christianity or anything that I heard of, but trying to sacrifice yourself for others is actually can be a very, very bad thing, not just for you, but for them too, because they never get a chance to earn their place. And so I'm a big believer of like being the cause of your own success is the ultimate fulfillment, and your own success, not your divine masculine, being the cause of your own success is the ultimate fulfillment. So to take that away from someone is almost just as bad as, if not worse, than costing them,
So,
taking away their house. Go ahead.
so let me stop you there for a minute, because I think that this is designed the way it is exactly for that reason, separation, right? And
Right.
that's part of the journey that so many, I would say that if you're a true twin, you go through that. And I've interviewed thousands of twins, so I know that that is a dynamic that we all go through, and it's designed that way because we both have to do our own healing. We're both responsible for our own healing, and only we can do that. Nobody else can do it for us.
Right.
And the other point that you brought up was the emotional, and how you were talking about this earlier, as far as the divine feminine being a lot stronger emotionally than the masculine, and that's somewhere that the masculine has to reach. And the other example you were giving is with your story, and what I've seen throughout the journey is that, and I always call this the Nine of Pentacles, the twin flame card for me, is because you could see,
Right.
or you see each other eye to eye, and there's quality, nothing else, and no below, above. For me,
Right.
my
Right.
divine masculine, he was awakened 2011. So he was awakened, I think it was 6 years before me, and he's the most evolved spiritual being I know.
Right.
And he always, because when I was first introduced to this was when I met him, and my spiritual journey, it unfolded pretty quickly, and I had a strong spiritual foundation, but if you talk to him, he's like talking to an encyclopedia. Like, he could tell you anything about, especially specifically about spirituality. I think
Right.
he used to be like a philosopher in his past life, but anyways, and many
Right.
actually, like a teacher. He's an ascended master, but that was something that he always looked at me like I was less or lower or some, you know,
That's a big one. I see that a lot, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I know that twins, until they see us at their level, right? And we see them in that same level. Because I always looked at him
Right.
too, like he was higher or whatever. I don't see him that way anymore. But he has to also balance that within himself. And that's ego, right? And that's
Right.
the dynamic with the masculine feminine, is that that's the only way you're going to connect, is when your ego goes away.
Right. 100%.
See
100%.
each other in the spiritual eyes. Otherwise, you're seeing through ego. And then the other thing is, what I wanted to touch on is the karmic, and how these masculine hide behind this karmic. It's like a wall for them, right? Like, they hide
yes.
from the love. They are scared of it. They have a fear of it. And for some reason, this divine, the divine feminine scares them. But this karmic, they use it like shield almost.
I 100% understand why, though. If you guys are confused, I feel like I 100%. I think, no, I don't think I know, at least in my situation.
Yeah.
It's, for them, it's controlled chaos.
Yeah.
It's a chaos in which,
I love
yeah.
that. Sorry, but
Yeah, for them, it's something, it's not all consuming. It's not gonna rip their heart. And it's almost like when you take shortcuts, you get cut short. It's like, okay, well, that's cute that, she might burn your house down and slash your tires, but at least you don't have to face your demons. At least you don't have to give up everything you thought was, you know, everything you subscribed to for the last 50 years of your life. At least it's not that. And I think it's also not I think for a lot of these divine masculines that have been, the masculine energy that's like running, avoiding, cracking jokes, running, avoiding, deferring, cracking jokes. It's almost, like that's like the routine. It's a girl. Like, what kind of life is it that you want to escape your life, or you want to go out golfing every time you get like 2 seconds off? You stay in the toilet for 2 hours a day. Like, you can't open up a package in your own house because you don't know. But it's at least when that blows up, they feel like they're not gonna lose their life, and their heart isn't gonna crash into 1,000 pieces that they don't know if they can even come back from.
Yeah.
I mean, if coming to a union is hard enough, imagine the idea for them of losing us for good.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they run away from, and that's something because here's and I think this is what's all consuming the twin flame. Not only was I one of the people that was very clear they had never cared so much about, and they said so, but it was also the one person that can make all of their dreams, literally everything.
Yeah.
Top trader, can do the Photoshop, Final Cut, do the video, do the edit, like literally everything.
Yeah.
But it was too, what if I was lost? Like, what if I died tomorrow? And just, it's almost easier to never, it's not easier. In their head, it almost seems like it's easier to never get that hurt, or if they get hurt, it's a controlled hurt. It's like, oh, I gotta call my insurance company. Oh, crazy. Oh my gosh, she's crazy, crazy. Everyone's crazy. She's crazy. Everyone's crazy. But it's not a heartbreak in their eyes,
Yeah.
even though every day they wish they could spend time with the divine or with their counterpart. It's still not. It's a controlled narrative. They still feel like the masculine always at it trying to control the narrative. Like every day, at least they feel like, and it's almost like they want to cave the world to their will. And it's almost like
Yes.
the burden, again, like the burden of man. Something that I thought was interesting too, that it was an epiphany I had a while back, but it's like the best secrets are hidden in plain sight. And so when you think about these darker figures, these shadow figures. There's a figure named Baphomet who, in his arm, in one arm, it's kind of like the Maleficent. It's what Maleficent inspired. It says create chaos and then fix it. And then I thought,
Wow.
well, what's interesting is, if the role of ego is to create chaos in our life, but then through our ego self, like fix the chaos it created with lies, and then you feel like, well, the lies, the ego that fixed the chaos, that's then the idol you begin to worship, right? So you got this crazy karmic in your life slashing your tires, but then you lie to her about the existence of the divine feminine, and now she's okay again. So then you feel that because you lied to her, you need to keep lying to keep the chaos away from your life. And then I wonder if that's how people stay in the endless cycle, in the endless loop of being a prisoner of the darkness and a prisoner of the 3D, because they create chaos through their terrible actions, or the origin, let's say the origin of the chaos was lying to the divine feminine or cheating or whatever, but then they feel like they keep their life from blowing up by lying again to someone else. And then, does that make sense? And so then this vicious
Yeah,
cycle,
absolutely.
servant to the 3D ego and servant to the chaos,
Yeah.
because they feel the chaos is fixing it, but no, is what's keeping you entrapped. And so,
Yeah.
going back to Baphomet, I wonder if the role of the darkness or the ego is to create chaos, but then also fix it, so that you feel like you're a prisoner, or you're worshiping then the chaos, because you feel like it's also fixing it. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't know if that made sense, but
Yeah,
um,
no, I'm feeling like I'm just relating it to my story. I know whenever I asked my masculine about this, he would tell me 3D relationships are easy. And I was like,
right,
your relationship? Like, really? She is very, very difficult person. Very manipulative, creates a ton of chaos, all of that. And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's easy." He's like, "You and and I mean, it's the energy though. It's not really so much like our personalities. Our egos
right,
don't get along, trust me. But like
right,
under all that, there is
right, 100%.
crazy love and attraction. And yeah, when we're in the same room, it's like combustion, right? It's that energy of like, don't even leave us alone together because there's
Right.
glasses breaking everywhere, that kind of. And that's why, it's so for twins, that energy is so,
Because
magnetic, right?
right, and that's where I do feel like the feminine is more emotionally stronger than the masculine, because they, again, lying, avoiding, cheating, deferring, lying, avoiding, because to them it's a lot easier to get their tires lashed than it is to face their heart, because their whole lives almost like they get told not to,
Yeah.
especially like a lot of them. And so for them, it's not it's not even about easy or hard. I think for a lot of them, it's just like they can't control the narrative. They can't control how they feel. Girl, a karma's never gonna break their heart.
Yeah.
No, break your windows, break your teeth, not break your heart though. And it's almost like they're so much more willing to have their life broken, but not face
Yes.
the deep rooted inner demons. And I wonder, like, it's kind of coming to me, if it's not just like their 3D life, but like the burden of just like the karmic generations of the male energy of just like, pain, work, pay the bills, but don't feel. It's almost like don't
Yeah.
feel, don't feel, don't feel.
Yeah.
And then, it's something that, and I think a lot of, even like when you think about like narcissism an empath. Now, I'm not nodding anybody to maintain an toxic relationship and do
Yeah.
your due diligence, obviously, but even that, it's almost like part of me wonders if they're enlightened enough to know that there's something bigger out there and they have a higher connection, but then they're also trapped in a 3D narrative. So then they're just they want to suppress the inner child, right? Like they want to suppress the, like build a stronger character, a stronger name, more money, like, and even someone's like, you have like this giant house and it's almost like the fortress to your heart. Like it's not, who else is hiding in here? Like it's just you. Like because he's like, oh, like you know, he reads so much the Beauty and the Beast. And I'm like, well, because you are, and it's almost like anything but being vulnerable. And I think something that a lot of divine masculines have a really hard time understanding is that the real power is in the ability to be vulnerable.
Yes.
Like that's really, if you can, any old body can go up in front of the room and say, oh, that doesn't hurt. Oh, I don't care about her. Oh, that, bro. Anybody can do that. But to like actually go out and be like, no, I'm hurt, I can cry. Like that takes courage, that takes guts, that takes balls, that takes real power. And that's something that I feel like masculines do not understand, or people,
Right.
society, especially American society, does not understand what real power is.
Yeah.
Like when you are one with your light, and again, it's through the extraordinary pain. When you are one with your light and with the divine, nothing's gonna shake you. Like, and that's where I do feel like the feminines have a more of a emotional turmoil, and the masculines have like a 3D turmoil. Your check, you're like, you're not worth millions of dollars now. Oh my God, your life ain't falling apart. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but to them, it's almost like they have the more I think like fiscal turmoil, or the more 3D turmoil, and we have like the emotional one because or the feminine has the emotional one.
I gotta tell you that wheel turns all the way around.
Right, right.
So no, it's gonna get to them. And the other thing is that the bigger their home and the more money, the less they feel fulfilled and the emptier.
Yes,
The
because they
more
never
empty
earned it.
space they have.
100%. I
Yeah.
think that's. I mean, it's just is, you know, it's as old as time. You know, like I tell us all the time that it is, because you do feel that much emptier. It's like, and that's something that I actually do relate to, because when I was younger, I was like prom king, and I was like all these things, and the more I had, the more, because I wasn't fulfilled, and so I was like, but I have every, and it's almost like I feel like where a lot of people's depression may become. And here's what I will say about the divine experience of the twin flames. I may have felt heartbreak and not consumed, but I felt something for the first time in a really, really, really long time. It's almost like up until that moment, I was going through the motions, and I thought I was happy. Like I thought I was like, I was excited, and I think even like Tim Ferriss in the 4 Hour Work Week is like, oh, the opposite of depression like that is excitement. It's like, I think men don't really get to know fulfillment, a lot of them, but I felt something for that, and it was almost like, it's almost, I rather felt pain than nothing at all. I didn't know that. I felt something for the first time in a long time, and I didn't know what to do with it, and that within of itself took a long time to, I think,
Process.
process. But again, only through that did I realize, like, the depth of the darkness that you've been through, not just in the twin flame journey, but your whole life. When going back to like the why me, to the highs of the twin flame.
Yeah.
Like if you think about that in like degrees of emotion, is the degrees in which, think about it, as you heal the pain, you can connect to everyone who's in between all those degrees that you felt. And then as you ascend from like the 3D to the 7D, you can connect to all the different consciousness. So then that's how much more people you're actually able to heal.
Right.
Like you can heal everyone. And that's kind of why I go back to like the Jesus epiphany, because it's almost like, as you heal through the twin flame journey, it is highly likely that it is not a human being that you will meet whose life you cannot deeply touch in 5 minutes by feeling the pain that they've been through, because you've been through this all-consuming pain as much as all-consuming light.
You relate
But
to
then,
it. Yeah.
right, you relate to it, but then also because of your varying degrees of dimensional resonance that you can, because you went from like the 2D to the 7D, as you heal of the twin flame journey, you can transmutate that almost like, like almost like when you think about like the Jesus crucifixion, it's like you can just, just you being there just can take such a huge weight off of people's shoulders, something that of personal experience. And so it's almost like the more of both you've been through, that much more of an impact you can have. I
I
mean,
gotta
even
tell you that that's on a very personal level though, because I think we all have like healing abilities. I think that's probably one of yours, and that's why you're connecting with that.
maybe.
Yeah, and so all twins have like varying experiences because we all are healers, but we
Right.
also have experiences, individual experiences for our mission. So I feel like you,
That's true.
yeah,
That's true.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, I'm sorry I had to throw that in there, but
Yeah, I mean, but let's say maybe if you don't just do that by being in the room, definitely by talking to people,
yeah,
like even you maybe you can't transmutate, and I kind of feel like there's a point where you will be able, but with that aside, even if you can, by talking to them and relating to a plane, and then being able to communicate. Like the reason we're having this conversation now is because like I don't want to say like we're out of the pain, but like there's so much that we've been through that other people can learn and heal from.
yeah,
So it's like that on a very high level everywhere you
yes,
go, because you will be able, like you meet someone who maybe like, one of their children, something like maybe committed suicide or something like that.
hmm
You maybe don't relate to the story personally, but you can relate to that feeling of wanting to. I mean, let's be honest. How many of you guys can relate to the feeling of like, I can't do this anymore.
hmm
But then, like, almost be able to then communicate how you came out of it, what you learned from, or what the silver lining might be of like, maybe they came in here, they did the healing work, whatever. And then also be able to maybe guide them through experiences you've had that got you out of that from the standpoint of multiple accounts, maybe. And then through that conversation, almost leave them at peace about maybe something they weren't at peace prior.
yeah,
So even if maybe you feel like you don't necessarily have the healing ability, by relating and conveying, and as you come out of that pain, being able to heal by speaking then to people
hmm
about your experience and how you came out of that.
yep,
And it's still back to the point of you're able to resonate with
yes,
more
yeah.
people and bring them higher, I guess, in a
Yes,
way.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I guess my point to that was that twins individually, like we have very specific missions, right? But
Right.
I was just telling you that I feel like you are a healer, so
Oh,
that's why
thank you.
you
Thank you.
carry
Thank you.
that, yeah. And that's
I will say, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was gonna say
Uh,
that's why you've had a lot of the experiences that you've had to show you, and also like we all experience like the Christ consciousness part of it because it's part of the journey, but specific experiences I think are to show you your mission. So
No, I agree. I feel like a lot of my abilities came into really high gear as I healed from the extreme pain.
yeah,
So I will say like I didn't feel like they were there I mean, there was definitely like iridescence of them prior, like they were there, but I feel like one thing I will say about like my twin flame experience is that it gave me an enormous amount of ability, like all of almost like all of my, it was like I was a little claircognizant, a little clairsentient, a little healing.
yeah,
After the healing in that part of it, I had never, it wasn't a whole nother level. It was almost like as good or stronger than my five senses. And
yeah.
but it was coming towards the end of the healing myself process of the journey.
Right. When you're in pureness, it's yeah, it takes you on a
Right.
different level. Yeah.
Um,
But to
yeah, so
maintain that
that's,
is different also.
I will say, I the biggest challenge that I have now is in terms of I will say for me personally, I think maintaining it is easier than coming out of it and through the journey. I almost want to say that like through and coming out of that journey, it's almost like a lot of my free will was lifted. Like I feel like it's not hard for me to act in purity for them. I mean, almost all day every day, and like from the higher light, and like almost like being like a channel for that.
Yes.
I think that's part of the divine feminine work, though, because I feel like inversely to the masculine, a lot of the divine feminines would rather heal the masculine than tap into their extraordinary power. Like it's like our greatest fear is not that of failure, but that
Yes,
we're or that we're weak, but that we're actually enormously powerful. And I feel like a lot of feminines,
I love that.
and one of my yeah, and I feel like a lot of feminines are actually very much in that boat. I know a lot, know a handful of divine feminines
Yeah.
that are real good about trying to feel their divine masculine, but they know damn good and well if they worked on themselves, they'd have everything they ever wanted and then some.
Well,
Like whether,
oh, I'm so sorry. You
go,
know what
no,
that
go
is
ahead, go ahead.
though is
Yeah,
control, right? It's we're trying to control, and it's people please, and it's all the things that we're supposed to be releasing from
right,
and
right.
overcoming. So, yeah, I like that. So, but to tap into the other side, to let go of the masculine, and so that he could heal, right? That's I think where a lot of people have a
Right.
hard time is letting go.
Is a hard. Oh, I did make a video on that because what I realized, like, it was so weird. It's like 2 seconds, but it was so weird. The moment, so after I started my 5D channel, because my whole life I thought, not my whole life, but my adult life, I thought that my purpose was to help people get money out of the way so that they could live in their purpose through the trading and investing in the financial markets. And that was my big goal and mission. Then, actually, by watching your video, I'm not sure, I forgot which, but like something about, oh, when you were talking about using the cards as a tool, not as, it hit me. I was like, wait, I had it all backwards. It was to gain the skill to show the people that are already attuned to higher dimension, ADHD, like attuned to higher different dimensions, tap in, learn the skill as above, so below, to use the markets as a vehicle when they're already there to have everything they ever wanted, and then be able to bring their light and all the fulfillment through that, not the other way around. So whenever I started my 5D channel focused on enlightenment and all of that, that moment, not even, I was not thinking about that being the purpose, but the moment I did that, my twin flame revelation video, it was like I let it go. It was the weirdest thing. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think when we step into our purpose, and I almost got the feeling that like the divine wants to make sure that we will both do our divine work with or without. So for the feminine, that we will do our divine work with or without the masculine. For the masculine, that to realize that they can do the work even better with the feminine, that they can do the work without the masculine.
I love
And I think whenever I motioned into doing what I realized at that moment was my heart calling, something about it like released me from the all-consuming pain of the back and
the
forth.
mission. Yes, I think that's a
Yes.
very important, and I tell people that a lot when I do sessions. Is that one of the things that helped me the most? Because I remember being in that place where it's that desperation that you feel when you're in the
Right.
energy of just get me out of whatever this is. I and you want to do something. You feel like you need to do something with it, and I knew I had a mission. I knew I had a purpose. I knew I had seen the light for a reason, right? Like I wasn't just going to be shown the light and be like, okay, you go on your way, right? Um, and as soon as I started my channel and I started channeling through that, and I don't think
Right.
channel is for everybody. Like that's not what that means. Everybody has their own mission, but
Right.
that was my mission, and I was shown it very clearly. Like my guides had told me early on, exactly what I would be doing, or not exactly, but I had a very, very good indication
Right.
of what my mission was going to be. And I
Right.
stepped into that. That was what balanced me on the journey because I had,
100%.
spiraled all the way down. And let me just bring up a few points before I lose them. One thing that you said that I wanted to go back to was there was something that you realized. You had an epiphany with your masculine at some point, and it was that you could have had everything with him. And I think when we're first on the journey and we don't have the awareness, of course, it's like ego based, right? Where we're at in
Right.
our thinking, and you see that whatever that means to you at that point. But then you go through a certain part of your journey where you realize, especially for the feminine, I feel like when you start losing a lot of things, right? And I know you've had this
Right.
experience where you've lost a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the understanding for myself that we could have been on the streets, we could have lived under a bridge, and I know that's not a pretty picture, but it doesn't matter. It was like what I felt, that it did not matter to me.
It didn't matter.
Nothing
I said, I actually told them those words to exactly.
together. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't matter if I was on the street with him or
Mm-hmm.
and like abundance after that really changed for me, because I think the meaning of that for a lot of people, it is like financial success and all these things. But I think that's another thing on the journey that you learn is you have to get straight with that meaning. You have to align with what abundance is truly to you after you go through the journey, because it's not money. And we know that, because we know that money doesn't fulfill us. And the more you
Right.
have, the emptier you feel. And you were saying, talking to that point, you know, and the bigger your house is, you know,
Right.
the emptier it feels. So
The more it reminds you that it's not fulfilling you, it's almost like in your face, and that's almost what.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people feel like, oh, like it's such a blessing to win the lottery. Well, statistically speaking, after 5 years of winning the lottery, you're broker than you were before, because you lose like those are stats.
Yeah. Yeah.
I 100%. The reason, so, and this is kind of where I really like. It's funny because like I don't want to get into this weird tangent, but when we think about the trading investing, the reason I love the market so much is because I very much feel like they're the heartbeat machine of the modern world. Every fear, phobia, anxiety is depicted in the candlesticks. You're irrationally exuberant about green energy. It's like Tesla goes up, and it's almost like the tech sector is a crown chakra. And when there's fear in the market, when there's fear in the market, commodities rise. So crude oil, gold, silver, like root chakra, like very like 3D hard things. What I came to realize is that, you know, like in history, like us Freemasons were killed, and a lot of the higher vibrational beings, I feel like, were killed. And I think, and before the trading in the markets used to be called like Master of the Universe or hedge fund market wizards. It's very, in a lot of ways, very esoteric, I think. Something that I realized about the markets that I love so much is that it shows me where I am mentally, physically, emotionally. It's a vehicle, like cards are for you, of how I'm feeling, and it's a scorecard of, because the rules are simple, and it's a scorecard of where I'm at intuitively, and that's why I love them so much. Other than that, I don't care about money, and for me, it's not even the money that I care about.
Yeah.
The more money I make shows me where I am conscientiously, and I feel like a lot of divine feminines tend to detach, not detached, but I actually told them the same thing. It's like, I don't care if we live under a bridge. Literally the same thing. If we live under a bridge together, I just want to. But that's, I think, part of the thing that we have to overcome.
Yeah.
It's because we do have divine missions here in the 3D world, like
Yes.
here on Earth.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy for us to forget that because we're so in the 5D and the 7D. And it's almost, and that's why I wanted to make the point about like abundance and like Think and Grow Rich, and the layers of Think and Grow Rich being about, you know, the 5 and 7D, like every time you read it, like each level of your life will demand a different you. And every time you read a book like that, you resonate with different things, just like with readings. I think it's important for the feminine to execute their mission as above, here below, as within, so without, because as our mission is on Earth. Our mission, I imagine, so I could be wrong. Like it's not in the. I mean, it's to. I think, and generally speaking, twin flames is to transcend to the 5 and 7D and help the world catapult that by showing the world what unconditional love is. But I think it's important to remember that our mission is below, and and that's why I went back to like when I started really executing and being in line with our mission, that's when I was able to let go. And that's why my epiphany came of like the divine wants to make sure that I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do here on Earth with or without the divine, because we're not soulmates, we're twin flames. Like, you know, I think a lot of people get the luxury, most people get the luxury of figuring themselves out prior to union or after union. That's not why we're in this journey, and that's not our soul contract. That's not why we're called into this journey. We're called into this journey to transmutate within us, as within so without, as above so below, and help the world around us. The more consumed we are with the divine, and I get it, girl, like I trust me, like would literally stare. And for me, it's almost like the blessing and a curse because as a day trader, I could like open up one eye and then see how much I made, close the position, and keep it going, and then like stare in deep depression at my ceiling all day. And so much respect for you, divine feminines. That seriously, that find a way to go to work every day. Like
No, right?
I have so much respect. Like I really do. Like I can't even like I got DoorDash. You know, I told I was gonna go get food. I was like, no, I don't feel like I'm just gonna DoorDash and order food.
Yeah.
Um and that's been, I don't know, honestly, I couldn't feel if it's a blessing or a curse because maybe I would have been happier to be distracted. But
Right.
yeah, we have to be in our mission because it's so easy not to be.
Yeah.
Same with wealth. It's just as easy to be, it's as easy not to be. It's just as easy to get up and go to the gym
Yeah.
than it is to not. It's easy to turn on the markets
Yeah.
than it is to not.
Yeah.
And my really good friend is an other twin, and we go through this all, and she's, oh my god, I look up to her so like she's, but anyway, but she's an amazing futures trader, but it's so easy to be so concerned with what the masculine is doing that you forget that, girl, you can buy, like, we can buy where we work, like, you know what I mean, like, and control and really control the narrative, but that's not what we're called to do. And I think, you know, the easier we come to do the work, especially like, and even if we want to be kind of selfish about it, a lot of these divine masculines, girl, they're chasing the coins. Like that's what they're doing anyway. And they're probably, if we were the ones to have it, they'd probably even be more intimidated. But like, if we wanted to handle it from that angle, we almost would be able to do it better if we lived in our journey, whether that's like healing animals or really, I'm getting the feeling that for a lot of divine feminines is really going out and speaking about not necessarily being like a divine feminine. Well, yeah, actually,
Yeah.
speaking about being in your power. Like, and my roommate said this, or my best friend, we live together. The opposite of ego or arrogance is not humility, it's being in your power. Because there's a lot of people that are very humble and very self-righteous, or they're self-righteous about being humble, but being in your power and being in tune with yourself and the divine, and really owning all of your power, because you know, dimming your light to make other people comfortable is not being in your power.
Yeah.
And that there is a part of ego, so that's like appeasing others. Like that's not being in your power. And I always feel like a lot of feminines, it's almost like it's almost like they need permission to be in their power. And I want to tell them that you have it. You have permission to be in your power with or without the approval of any masculine, divine counterpart or not. Like,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like they're waiting for the masculine to come along to do the work, and it's backwards. It's actually the other way
Right.
around.
Right.
But my guides are telling me to tell you that I know I talked to you about your gift as a healer, but you translate numbers. So and from the higher realms. When I was listening to you, I was seeing more your gift with it, when it's a light code actually.
Yes. Oh my God. I am so amazed, like that you can see that. I recently realized that. I was like, oh, I know where the market's going to open at. Like, I know, like, a part of me realized that I knew and even like there was times where like, I was like, oh, like a year, like last year I told the master, I was like, it's going to go to 210 and then it's going to fall, or it's going to go a little bit above. And there was in our world, there was no context for me to say that. But I do see like where.
When you said that about cards, like, because I have to go up obviously to the higher realms to connect and bring down the messages, you do the same thing with numbers, because I translate symbols or energy through symbology or through my guides, however I'm shown. But you do that with numbers. They were just showing me that, so I had to give you that.
No, thank you so much. No, I realized that a little bit ago, when I had and it's in one of my videos in my long rants, but it was like, you know, when the Masons were killed, like, you know, in the Bank of Knights Templar, that's why I feel like they were killed, because they were a higher vibrational beings, and they wanted to hijack the narrative, and like the institutions, the religious institutions, the financial institutions, they wanted to hijack and control the narrative. So I think that's why originally they were called Masters of the Universal Market Wizards, and then it became not. And that's something that I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like this is
They understood how to connect the higher
right,
vibrations, and they
right,
understood math through that.
right. And sacred geometry,
And
and like
sacred
that's what we tell it
geometry.
starts as a
Yes.
geometry. It's and the Fibonacci and all that.
Yes.
It's and that's when I realized like, no, this is like getting the power back to anyone who wants to connect to their higher self. I feel like I think back then in those times they didn't necessarily realize that. All they knew was like, we need to not pay the Masons back, so kill them, kind of a thing.
No,
But
I think back then, actually, they were more connected spiritually than at any point in time, like Egyptian time, when I've
yeah,
been able to
well,
connect
right.
that far back. It was the purest connection, actually, during that time. So, but I'm very connected to like that Freemason, especially like the Egyptian timeline.
Right. 100%. Yeah, I have like hieroglyphics on my leg.
Um,
100%. Yeah, and I guess a couple of I forgot what era, but that the Masons were persecuted. I guess the Catholic Church owed the Masonic body or the Knights, not the Knights Templar, the I forgot. Oh my God. Total brain fart. I didn't forget, but I'm having a brain fart about it. And so they ordered to kill them because they didn't want to pay back the debt and interest. Um, yeah, so it was like I almost feel like these lower vibrational frequencies are kind of what brought in like the 3D ego as we know it today. And brought in the establishment to the institution, but that's a whole different
right. We could
thing.
talk forever.
Right.
Actually, let's go ahead and close on that note. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on and talking. And I think for a lot of Divine Feminine, it's just a lot of times I think we connect with whatever message we need to hear at that time. And
Right.
I think it's just an important time to help lift the collective energy. Just talking
Yeah.
about things and bringing light to them. Also,
Right.
bringing light to the darkness. A lot of people kind of are scared to talk about different topics and subjects, and it's like, no, it's okay.
A hundred
Like, we
percent.
need to
Yeah,
talk about this.
darkness lie. 100%. No, I totally agree with you. Yeah, darkness dies with one ray of light, and like I think people forget that. It's like it only takes one ray of light to kill the darkness, and I think for a lot of divine feminine or masculine, it's like you are that ray of light, and I think people, and I think that's kind of what happens a lot of times. In some ways, that's some of the dark side that maybe I've experienced a little bit. It's like whenever you are in your light and in your power, people can't help but to see all of themselves like almost like thrown at their face. So they can become very uncomfortable by you because it's like they're seeing. It's like, no, you're not judging me. You're judging you.
Yeah.
You only know me through your level of perception, and judging by that, you don't know me at all. But you're seeing all your demons flying at your face, and then you're projecting all this darkness onto the person. They're seeing the worst sides of themselves, and I think a lot of we do that to the masculines too. Like we show them, especially the closer, but then you also transmute them. But I think the closer you become to your light, the more. I think for your masculine, I think what's different for your masculine and the rest of the world is that they can ascend with you, whereas everyone else is just like, I'm seeing sides of me that I don't want to see, and it just happens when this person's around, so I don't want them around because I don't want to face those things. And then again, that's why I realize the markets for me are like sharing that with like the higher so that you don't have to deal because the markets don't discriminate. But yeah, no, thank you so much. I've been so oh my God, like I was telling you before, like oh my God, when I saw you like approve me as a friend, I was like, oh my, you're like a celebrity to me. So I was like so excited. So thank you for having me. I don't know if a few people have asked about my channel, so I don't know if it's okay if you want me to share like not or whatever's appropriate to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. It's brand new, guys, and like the first video, I'm kind of ranting and rambling. It's only like a week or two old, but it's pretty much like RLD 5D on YouTube. So I think if you just go to YouTube, and that's what it looks like. I don't know if you can see that, but I don't know if that's clear.
You could
It's
just
like
add the link in the comment.
oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, but yeah, it's just my name. It's Reuben Landon Dante, and then there's two channels. One about trading, because that was like you guys know my first one. The 5D is about this, and it's just I guess the purpose of it is everything in thinking relation, all the practicality, like trying to, like you said, like with numbers, trying to put these really broad and deep concepts into practical, applicable terms into your everyday life,
Yeah.
and doing something with as divine channels that all of you guys are, because you are a divine channel, like, because I think it's so easy to, sorry, my last note, I think it's easy to have a panic attack or an anxiety attack, or like be very sad, but it's almost like, I heard this in the Cobblestone, it's such a great quote, but it's like everyone would agree that electricity is a good thing, but if you stake your finger in an electrical socket, you're going to get electrocuted. So that doesn't mean that electricity is bad, it just means like that's a misuse of that energy. So it's important to remember that like anxiety and anticipation come from the same underlying emotion. Is just what we do with it. So that's kind of like what I'm trying to do with my channel, is like begin to hone and manifest in 3D practical terms these broad, hugely elevated concepts, or into chewable. So yeah. So anyway, um,
Chewable. So we could swallow
yeah.
it a little easier.
You're right. Like, and like little, and I think I did one, like I was a little proud of myself for the one I did on like activity and light workers, because it was like, oh, like that's a energetic resonance in a very like easy to understand way, or so I thought. So you please, if you guys don't agree, let me know and I will work on it, because I feel like that is my purpose to put it in understandable terms.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate it. Well, thank you again for coming on, and I'm sure if you ever want
Thank
to join me
you.
again for another talk, you have another
Oh my God, we can do it every day, girl. Don't tell me that. For sure,
yeah,
100%.
yeah. Look at you
Um,
also on the masculine group. I know for Lionsgate, energies are gonna get intense, and so yeah, we'll keep in touch for sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having
Yeah,
me, and thank you for
and maybe
talking
we
to
can
me.
open it up to the audience too if there's something that they want to
Yes,
talk
I
about.
love Q&A. It's kind of why I wanted to use my computer so I could see, because I have to go back and forth. But yeah, anytime you guys let me know, that's a great thing about being a trader. I'm just here.
Yeah,
Um,
and I'm kind of the same thing. I'm here to do my mission, so I'm very open in that way too. So yeah,
yeah,
we'll definitely get a topic together and get together again and
awesome
talk
for
about it. All right,
sure.
Reuben. Thank you,
All
thank
right, love and
you.
light.
Love
Thanks for having me.
yeah.
Love you guys, and you lots of love. All
Okay.
right, bye.
And I'll let
Go
you
ahead.
go. I'm gonna just stay on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
Thank you. So, for everybody that's still here, thank you so much for joining us and staying on. And I just actually wanted to continue on with the message if you guys want to hang tight for just a minute and let me give you the message of Lord Ganesh and what else he said to us. So, I was talking about the masculine and how they were how he was giving us the message of where they're at and they're kind of stuck in this moment. And he was telling us to shine our light, and he was also telling us to express our love and not to hold back. Okay, so that was a big message because he repeated it a few times. And so I asked for a specific message on why the divine masculine had retreated and what it meant. And he said, well, they're in the void space. And so I asked to clarify what they're doing in the void space. And they said that, or he said, excuse me, that they're rebuilding and they're reimagining um, to rebuild. I hope that made sense. And regather and refocus to build new ground. So I had to ask about the karmic situations and why the karmics had the strongholds on the masculine and what that represented. And he said that it was a form of slavery and entrapment, and the masculine needed to purge this energy. And I asked if this was individual for the masculines or if it was collective, as far as how much they were going to purge and how fast. And he said that it was individual, that these are limiting factors on the part of the divine masculine, and that it was bondage and slavery that they had to release from. This is the mindset. And he said that it was very powerful, though, over them. And they have a lot of significant lessons for many of the masculines, still have a lot of significant lessons to learn. And and that they have to still work through some of these things. And each soul karmic contract is different in what they have to go through. So then we asked about unions, and if there's going to be twin flame unions coming together. And he said yes, in soul groups. And so we asked if he could be specific with us. And he said that these are waves, is what that meant. And he said not to worry. He told us that many times, not to worry in this energy. He says the tendency is to worry, but don't worry, this will happen, he says. And then we asked about the divine masculine more and what they're doing in the void. And he said they're waiting. And so he told us this several times, and we wanted to get more specific insight on this. And he said that they're waiting for the divine feminine to balance and balance their energy. And so we asked what that meant specifically. And he says that the reason that many of them cannot move forward is because the divine feminine are in the lower vibration of doubt, and they don't believe, and they're not believing in this energy. And he said that it's very important for the twins to come together. He said that we have to stay constant in this energy because it's a collective effort, and we have to take care of ourselves and each other. We have to take care of the light and of this love, and we have to have faith in it. And he said, most importantly, it's about consistency, and the consistency of belief and the unwavering belief. He says a lot of divine feminine, they flip-flop and they fall back down into these very low vibrations, and it's not conducive to the journey. And then I asked specifically about my divine masculine, and he's collective energy, so I'll just share what they said. And they said that my masculine, but the masculine collective is pondering. They're pondering. And I said, specific, please. Like, what are they pondering over? What are they thinking about? And Lord Ganesh says, well, he loves you very much. And for a lot of the masculine, he was talking to me about my own story, that everything that we had gone through, which was very, very difficult, that he felt bad for some of what we had gone through in our journey. And he was wondering how to come forward. That was basically the message, and I feel like that's for a lot of the masculine again. But that he's most grateful at this time for the love, and the love that exists between the twins. And of course I got really emotional at this point. I started crying because he started talking to me about how the masculine was feeling. But when I was tapping into that energy, what I felt was that their energy was very emotional. Like, and you see my eyes are all red. But it was because of where he took me, like in the divine masculine, like collective emotional body. There's a lot of pain and hurt, but it was towards the divine feminine, actually, and like them feeling bad about how they've treated us and not being able to come forward because they're not ready within themselves. And also their energy, the other thing that they were telling us is that it's like tower. It's this tower energy, and for them, they're trying to just hold on. They're struggling is what I was getting, and they're just barely hanging on, and they're trying to go with the flow. There's a lot of things that are being thrown at them, and they're very afraid is what I was getting. So the other thing that Lord Ganesh said is that they're in the right spirit, though. He was talking about my masculine. He said that he's in the right spirit, right frame of mind, and this is what is moving him forward. And so then he started to talk to me specifically as Divine Feminine. He said to stay on my mission, and he says, do not stop believing in the path. And he was actually, sorry, he was talking to both myself and the girl I was doing, or the lady I was doing the session with. I asked her specifically to ask about her mission. And he said that do not stop your mission. We're needed, the Divine Feminine, to shed light on our twins, and to be that constant in the equation, but also to be that that lighthouse. And our signal, our beacon, brings our masculine back to us, and it guides him in this darkness that he's in. So he said, your twin loves you without a doubt, and the dynamic of the twins was designed the way it was for us to go through our separation and face our darkest, deepest fears and to heal our wounds. But we're doing this for the collective, and we're anchoring in this light for everyone, he said. He said, this is the highest mission of all, and he says, you all should be proud of yourselves. Don't worry, because worry brings your energy down, and stay strong. Stay in your hearts, he said, because your hearts will guide you. And he says, do not back down. And then he took us to a sort of like army, is how she explained it. It was like military, almost like character that he had at this point. And he said that we are fighting this war, and we will win. The divine love will win. And he said, we are an army together, and we need to stand together. And he says, your bravery will pay off. United, you'll be able to move the obstacles. And he says, but divided, you'll have a harder time. So he was encouraging the Divine Feminine to stay united. And then she started to see, up in the 5D, he was showing her visions of the armies, and they're all united. And he is saying that's how we need to be in the physical. We need to be united. And he says, remember that it's darkest before the dawn, and victory will be yours. Divine Feminine, know this. Stay on the path and on your mission, and this will be the turn of the tide. So we are here to support you. We are your support. He said, stay in your strength. This is of utmost importance, because we are going through a lot of darkness, and we need to stay in our belief of what this is. You're not alone. Stay calm, he said, through the storm. Weather the storm. Don't lose hope, and don't lose faith. These are your biggest tools in the journey to hold on to the higher vibrations, vibrational energies. This is what will lift you up above the dense energy. And he says, share your messages widely. Spread your light and love. And he says, do not fall down. Trust more and believe more and go with the flow, as is what the masculine is doing. And he says, even if we're just giving you guys breadcrumbs, follow those breadcrumbs. He says, this is your destiny, and this is your path. So that was Lord Ganesh's message to us. And just because I'm on and I have you guys here with me, I do want to read a little bit into the energy today because I know it's changing so much every day. And I feel very connected whenever I do sessions in the quantum field. It opens up the crown chakra quite a bit, and the connection is just that much stronger. So we'll see what the guys want to tell us, because I also feel this is amazing. Lord Ganesh was very strong with us today, and he was very patient, and he was with us for a long time, giving us all of this insight. So I feel like he has more to say, and we'll kind of just let the messages channel through. But these are all the same exact cards that I pulled on the last reading. They came up in a little bit of a different layout, but this actually was the same exact card in the same exact position. The Nine of Wands in reverse, which is frustration, and the Tower energy. And we've pulled this card for the last two readings. I believe I did Facebook Live, and I pulled this card on the masculine side, and then I did it on the general reading, pulled it on the feminine side, and now it's in the root. So lots of Tower energy coming through. And they're also having me write this article on the life and death cycles, and I'm almost done. I just need to edit it, but it's very strong how fast we're going through a lot of these cycles, we'll call them lessons, and also the crumbling down of the false foundation or ego. In this card, though, this is about things happening very quickly, and I think that's what they want us to see through Lion's Gate and through all of these portals, the sacred portals. We've come a long way. We've moved a lot of obstacles, and it's been dark just because there's so much that's come down, and it's like that smoke when you can't really see through that. But in all of this, what I feel is kind of what Reuben and I were talking about, where underneath all of that exists the love, and that is at the core. And the Nine of Cups is the connection for the twins. That is what the connection is. Aside from everything, this reminds me too of a movie that I was watching last night, and it was this couple that fell in love. And I tell you, whenever I watch anything, it's my guides bringing it to me. But what was interesting was this guy who's kind of like a playboy, and the gal, she was like young and innocent type of energy. They meet, fall in love, and he didn't want to fall in love, and she didn't either, but they did, right? That's kind of how love works. And he is continuing in his patterns of lying and all this stuff, and she catches him in a lie. She confronts him, and he's like, you know, that's just kind of how I am. And she was looking at him like, are you kidding me? That's your excuse? And then she starts saying to him, she like starts pushing him and saying, but what about love? What about love? And she just kept saying that over and over and over again. And this is kind of like the masculine is being hit with this, what about love? What about love? So I feel like this is repeating in their minds. Again, it's that energy of them having everything, reaching the heights, right? But they have that big house and it's empty. They have the financial, you know, whatever it is, they're not feeling fulfilled. The Nine of Cups is a card of feeling fulfilled and pleased and kind of just accepting where you are. And for the masculine, they're looking at everything. Almost what I get for them is in this state of like desperation, like, what is this? Why do I feel this way? Like, what is making me feel this? Because I have it all, but I don't. They really don't, because What about love? They don't have it. They don't have the love. So the Emperor card in reverse comes up in the crown, and this is the masculine. Like, in his role, he's remembering his role because it's been shown to him, right? He knows that with the feminine, he can have it all. And the love, it scares him because he doesn't want to get his heart broken, and he's scared of that. But what about love? Like, the masculine also wants to experience that. He wants that. Now that his heart has been open to that, he wants it again. And as I look at the cards, I see the energy. It kind of looks like a 6 and a 4. The 10 energy, it's all about this new beginning. Like, this is really a new time that we're walking into, is what I'm feeling, because I feel like the masculine is on board, and on a soul level, if that makes sense. And I feel them in like that very pure energy. See the World card, it's all the same cards. The World card is about love. It's about having the world on the palm of their hands, but nothing else matters except for the love. That's kind of what I get. They're understanding that concept, I guess. And here it is in the outcome. That is what they want. And then they have that double-edged sword. So, and here's the number 10 card that I'm talking about. I'm almost like Reuben at this point. I'm tapping into that sacred geometry. And okay, so Ace of Swords, a frustration. And here's another one of these cards. It's in reverse. They're very frustrated with their lives. They're very frustrated with themselves. They've experienced something that they can't forget. And it just plays on repeat in their mind like a tape recorder. That's how when I tap into the masculine's energy, they're tuned in to the channel of the divine feminine, and that's kind of where their radar is, right? Okay. I have too many cards. Let's see. So the Nine of Swords comes up for the feminine. And the Queen of Wands, you saw how that card flipped over, and it's the karmic card. So definitely the karmic energy's coming up. I read the energy, and it just is what it is. The divine feminine is very worried. The Nine of Swords in this energy. Tears of frustration. That word is just the predominant word of this time. And what I'm seeing is that the divine feminine is having a hard time letting go, like, of control issues surrounding the masculine. We're being tested with that, is what they're saying. They're saying to remember the polarities of the journey. So it's the same, but the opposite of what the masculine is going through in the lessons. And the lessons of the storm. They are to let go, and I just did a post on that. Okay, and a Three of Wands is the card of surveying and looking out. But what I get is we're looking out in the storm, because it's very stormy, and so that's why we can't really see in this time. And there's also a lot of outside influence. That's the karmic energy. But I also want to say that the Queen of Wands card itself is about, it actually represents positive energy. And they're asking us to look at things from that light. so that we can bring up our vibration and we can transmute a lot of the karma. And they're saying that everything will work out and it's being taken care of. So not to worry, and that's the energy that's coming through. Not to worry, because it brings down our vibration. And they're saying it's very important to anchor in the higher light, but we have to be a vessel to it, and we have to be connected to it, right? So do not doubt that the masculine are going to come towards us, and they do need our support in the sense of us standing in our light. That's how we can support the masculine, not by enabling. So I know that was a specific message for somebody, they're saying. Okay. Communication and friendship. I feel like one of the things that I was getting for the masculine, I asked about this myself, why they had retreated. They're going through a lot of healing, the masculine. And on the other side of that, they're asking us to ground. There's a lot of the higher light coming in, and so it's an important time to ground this energy, to anchor it in, okay? And they're also asking us to reach out. Friendship is strong. And what I get is to connect with other twins. Again, it's the energy of unity and staying united. That's a very important message that's coming through. Okay, let's see what else they want to say for the divine masculines. Balancing the masculine and feminine, and we've been seeing this. The masculine is very much balancing with the feminine within. So that's also why we've retreated, so they can connect with the feminine from within and balance that. And own your divine power. So the masculine having to balance that so he can come forward in his role. And he's facing his fears around love, and they're not letting him forget. The card is don't forget, but it's also remembering. It's a time for them to connect in deep with their hearts so they can remember the higher love. Also, oh my gosh, this is my birthday, 10/28. How cool is that? 10/28, but 10, I was just going to point out the number 10, and then 28 is also 10. So very interesting energy of seeing a lot of the end. And this card, the ace, is also a new beginning, right? 21 is the end. Number 9 is the end. Tower card is the end. This is the number 9, the end. So the end, to have this new beginning, to have the feminine now come into their world, finally letting her in to his heart and his actual physical reality here. Look through the mist and see the mystery. This card, to me, speaks of a connection with the emotional body, to be able to connect with the higher awareness. For the divine feminine, this speaks of our inner work and also of understanding the journey from that perspective, from the higher perspective. Ooh, lots of cards, but it's all the same energy coming through, which is lovely to see that. Bring peace to troubled waters. The masculine coming forward towards his divine feminine as he does that work from within. And what I saw in the card is the emergence. But what I got was that 911 energy, just because that keeps coming through for me. 5150 energy and 911 has been very strong as far as like tower energy coming through for them. And what they're saying to me, my guides, is that this is the only way they're going to learn their lesson in these storms, right? And a deep secret is revealed. And I feel like that comes back to us from the beginning of this, when we started going through these portals, and a lot of things were surfacing, coming up for us to see. And I feel like there has been some, like they're saying, earth-shattering event, or some kind of secret, or some finding out about something that was brought up for them to the family, something that was exposed, that kind of energy, right? That's difficult, like coming out of the closet type of energy, whatever it is, where it's shifted them from within. It's made them go deeper into some of these wounds to understand, like, what is the cause, right? The childhood wounds and trauma, I feel, for many. And they're healing through this time. They're healing through the storm. And it reminds me of the energy of Jesus when they're in the water. And it's about trusting. And on one end, for the feminine, we need to also trust in the journey to be able to guide our masculine back to us. If you think of them like on a boat, and they're your light is guiding them back. That's where I feel the masculine, they're kind of lost in a lot of pain. And in that, though, they're seeking that comfort from feminine. And you guys could take that message however you want to take it. I'm just channeling the energy that's coming through of them connecting. I almost feel like they're connecting, though, on like the inner child, but also it's that higher connection. It's through the love, the core love. Okay, so climb the spiritual ladder one step at a time. Slow and steady is the energy that came through for that the last time. And I feel like for the masculine, yes, they've been going through this process simultaneously with us, but at a very slow rate, right? And the feminine are kind of ahead in a lot of ways, and we've been waiting. But that's what Lord Ganesh was talking to us about, that it's a balance that's happening of both energies. So I feel like that's what this energy is about. And finding our life purpose, I do feel that the masculine energy, they're connecting with that. Their mission, like knowing that they're here for a higher calling, they're here for a mission. And kind of like what Reuben said, they can do the mission on their own, yes, but I feel like they could see that the feminine holds that opposite and equal ability as theirs. They see a benefit in it, if you will, and I know that's not the best word for that, but there's a deep calling from within the masculine. And oh, that's funny when I said that. There's a calling, and there he's answering his phone. And what's interesting is that the card, it did come up in reverse because it's a process. They want us to know that. This is definitely a process that we go through, and the process is very difficult, but there's a lot of lessons. And you see, like, in the mirror, there are all of those letters or whatever they are, but lots of messages coming to him. That's what the card represents. heeding the call, and the feminine holding that strong energetic bond and that magnetism and calling the masculine. The other thing that my guides were talking to me about was the womb chakra, how there's a strong link right now with the twins and the womb chakra. This is also what is the higher 13th chakra of union. So just pull a few more cards and ask if the masculine have a message from the stack for the divine feminine. A message for the divine feminine. Letting go of codependency is what they're doing. And all of the stuff around the philosophy of life, their belief system, religious factors, things like that are coming up. And just like we were saying, is that I think what they're seeing is that this love is the love of one. It transcends everything. It transcends all. And the masculine, it's like he sees beyond. Even when he looks at the feminine, it's like he's looking into her soul, but looking into like the soul of the world, if you will. Like there's so much healing that's happening within him when I'm tapping into their energy, and so much love, like that he's connected to. And what they're also saying is that the world card represents releasing the weight on of the world that's been on his shoulders, and he just wants peace and tranquility and calm. He wants these calmer waters. He wants to get out of all of that troubled past that he's been in. He understands also that he's created his own chaos, his own storm. He is understanding the cause and effect law fully. The universal laws all being shown to him. This is through sacred geometry is also what they're saying. So there's a lot that's going on with these masculine at this time. Let's just ask for one more message, and then I will go ahead and close with that. A standstill, and we're in a standstill because we're taking a lot of this in the masculine. We're kind of waiting on them, and they're waiting on us as we balance each other's energies out and the things that we need to heal. So Lionsgate, again, I feel is going to be a very influential time for a lot of twins as we move into the next phase, which is this card. So thank you, everyone, for joining today, and always for your love and support of what I do. And if anybody wants to ask anything, you guys could go ahead. I'm looking at the comments now, so I'll give a minute. But thank you for all the love, all the hearts. I always read everybody's comments, by the way, and I appreciate them very much. Thank you, Tracy, Barb, Elena, Karen. I saw you too. I haven't seen you for a while. You're welcome, Elena. Name of the movie. Oh, I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm so bad with names. Oh, hi, Karen. I haven't seen you in a while either. Nice to see you. Hey, Joshua. How you doing? And you're very welcome. And you're welcome for the reading. Why was Reuben talking about 70? I don't know if I can answer that here. Well, the video, it's messages are going too fast. You're so beautiful. Oh, thank you, Eva. Text a week ago. Yeah, I'm getting that a lot of the masculine are reaching out. Not all, but there is communication. Like it's slow communication. It's not like open, and they're kind of just still shielded, guarded. A lot of yin and yang, yes. A lot of balance. Thank you, hon. Thank you. Hello, Beth. And thank you, Reuben, for joining. And maybe you want to answer that question about 70. Somebody asked. Thank you. Thank you, Blake. Or is it Blake Elizabeth Thompson? All right, everyone. I will let you guys go. Have a great rest of the day and weekend. And I'll see you guys again soon. Okay, bye-bye.